nuclear bomb, as Jackson Mthembu, the chief of the ANC, would probably say. Irrespective of whether you agree that President Zuma should be recalled or not, the secret ballot is a game changer. It is not a secret that the ANC is split on Zuma's leadership, and tomorrow will test the unity of Africa's oldest liberation movement when they go to vote. Rumor has it that there will be some last-minute lobbying late into the night, which I'm sure the Secretary General of the Youth League can tell us about a bit later. Almost 15 years ago, Zuma was fired as deputy president by his nemesis, former President Thabo Mbeki, in parliament. Will history repeat itself? This time at the hand of at least 201 members of parliament, as is required by the Constitution. Tonight, we have some of the best people in South Africa to answer that question for us. From my far right, with no reference to his political ideology, the leader of the UDM, General Bantu Holomisa. General, good evening and welcome. Next to General Holomisa is Mr. Zwelinzima Vavi, the Secretary General of SAFTU. Then the youngest member of the panel, I think, maybe, is Njabulo Nzuza, Secretary General of the ANC Youth League. Welcome, Mr. Nzuza. Unfortunately, Dr. Makosi Koza from the ANC couldn't make it. Tonight's interview will be conducted by my colleagues Jerusha Sukthio-Rath, our video editor, and the News 24 political editor, Mkhlati Gallants. Over to you, ladies.
Thank you so much, Adrian, and thank you so much to our esteemed panelists. We're going to start off on this side of the room, and as Adrian mentioned, tomorrow will be a historic secret ballot, but we're going to have a not-so-secret ballot now, and then you're going to have an opportunity to change your minds at the end of this conversation. So let's have a quick poll in the room. Who thinks that tomorrow, during that secret ballot, President Jacob Zuma will find himself losing the presidency? I don't know about you, Mkhlati, but I am very surprised.
I guess they know what's going on with the MPs right now. And maybe, so that means that everybody agrees that President Jacob Zuma will still be president by the end of tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that shouldn't be good news for you, Mr. Bantu Holomisa. You were the one that took the Speaker to the Constitutional Court to force her to hold this ballot in secret.
Well, the people who are here are not members of Parliament. That secret ballot was not intended for this audience. It was intended for members of Parliament. But on a serious note, I'm happy that the Speaker has finally given this decision. In particular, that there have been a lot of threats and intimidation against some of the members of Parliament. Tomorrow afternoon, they will be free to exercise their vote. They will be free from the politics of Tagari, which was engulfing this country. I am not even interested about the outcome. All I wanted was to make sure that the MPs do their own right things, follow their consciences freely without any intimidation. I've done my job. Let's see the rest of 400 MPs tomorrow. What are they going to do?
But Mr. Holomisa, you say that you're not that concerned about the outcome. I struggle to believe you. You must be a little concerned about that outcome.
Well, if you want the opinion of the party, the UDM, I sympathize with President Zuma. I was one of the MPs who said, let us discuss his exit strategy then, but they neglected that offer. But after these nauseating emails, now I feel strongly that the law and order, or the law must take its own course. Investigate, even Zuma will have to stand a trial if there is a need.
Then what would be the significance of tomorrow then, if your motion to get him to go does not succeed?
Then that would mean that the democratic right of the MPs have said their piece. But let us give the Cyrils of this world, the Blade Nzimandes of this world, and many other MPs who have been saying Zuma must go. If they don't use that opportunity tomorrow, then we will just dub them as nothing else but hypocrites.
And maybe to you, Njabulo Nzuza, your reaction to Baleka Mbete's decision to hold the vote in secret?
Well, to us, it really doesn't matter whether the vote is secret ballot or no secret ballot. It will yield the same results. We are very confident. And, you know, members of the ANC who are serving in parliament, we trust them. They know what to do the right thing. Because what you must know is that this effort is not meant at removing President Zuma, but it is actually meant at collapsing government. And we can't support things that seek to collapse government, especially on issues of allegations and so on and so on. So we can't really talk much about that. But the other issue that we must put clearly on record right here and now is that the UDM went to the Constitutional Court to try and force the Speaker to declare secret ballot. But the Constitutional Court rejected that and said the decision lies with the Speaker. So we must not here pretend as if the Speaker had a gun at her head saying that declare a secret ballot. No, that will be untrue. That will be inconsistent. It was the decision of the Speaker, and the Speaker has taken a decision. And to us, it proves that the ANC is not really shaken about this issue, because we know what the agenda is here. We're not confused.
I see that Mr. Holomisa has his hand up. He wants to interject.
Well, I would like to dispute that. The United Democratic Movement went to the Constitutional Court to seek a determination after Madam Speaker said, I don't have powers to declare a secret ballot or conduct elections through a secret ballot. And we made it clear there that we are not asking the Constitutional Court to force Parliament. We know the differences between the powers of Parliament and the judiciary and the cabinet. So please don't mislead the public, because our papers, everybody read those papers here.
Maybe, Mr. Vavi, you were not in the court, but very supportive of the march today that was organized by civil society. Is this just about the politics, or should ordinary South Africans really care about what happens tomorrow?
I think they should. Today, the Statistics South Africa issued yet another report on the rate of unemployment in the country. It basically said that there is no change in unemployment statistics insofar as the narrow definition of unemployment is concerned. But it then said that there is a change in relation to the broader definition of unemployment, meaning that unemployment that we recognize from the labor movement as being unemployment is getting worse. And it is going to get worse. And those who are from the union point of view will know that there is a total onslaught on jobs in the country. There's a full-blown bloodbath. It's a catastrophe. And the SIFSA was saying to newspapers today that they laid off 25,000 workers between July 2014 and June this year. The Anglo-Ashadi says it is going to be slaughtering over 8,000 jobs. The public sector itself, through the austerity program that is being driven by the government that is hell-bent on driving a neoliberal program, announced 2-3 years ago that it is going to cut 25,000 jobs. At the end of this year, unemployment would have run out completely of hand, will be now running up towards the Limpopo direction to Zimbabwe, where unemployment have become a norm. And you cannot, for a minute, only blame the past for that unemployment. At least for now, we know that that unemployment is worsening thanks to the reckless actions of the president, who removed a cabinet minister not for any logical reasons, but in order to replace him with cronies and who are hell-bent on advancing the agenda of pillaging the state coffers and who are hell-bent on looting the resources of our country. The whole noise about radical economic transformation have now been proven to have been false and false, because the minister who replaced Pravin Gordhan says, I'm taking over and implementing exactly the same programs of the previous minister. No change, except I have a darker skin, the other one has a little bit lighter skinned. And that's all. That's the only difference. And that's why we're suffering. These guys who said we will pick up the rent, and, or we will rise with the new economy with our people, are nowhere to be seen as workers are being slaughtered in the labor market in South Africa today. And that's why we've had enough. And that's why we're not neutral tomorrow. We wish that more MPs could find deep down in their conscience something that says prioritize the interest of South Africa above your narrow interest of saving your jobs, or even your narrow interest of miscalculated so-called saving our party.
Njabulo, a very depressing picture there that Mr. Vavi paints, and this is under the leadership of President Jacob Zuma. Surely these are all reasons for him to go.
These are not reasons for the president to go. And one thing that we must stipulate here is that you can never blame the entire economic problems of the country and then reduce it to one person. There are various issues that contribute to the economy, the private sector, how the private sector relates with government, tax laws that we have in the country. So it's quite a variety of issues. If you were to apply narrow economics, you will then end up saying that, look, reduce to these issues to just one person. You can't do that.
In a country, though, you have a president who must be held accountable for the performance of the country, and we can pin down his decisions to some of the economic aftermath. I mean, we saw when the former finance minister was fired, how much was actually lost. When the second reshuffle actually happened, how much was actually lost. These are decisions that he made without the support of the ANC in that matter.
Well, they did. There was support of the ANC on those issues.
No, we know that...
No, there was support of the ANC. You look at formal statements that are issued by the ANC through the Secretary General that dealt with the issue of the cabinet reshuffle. But I must say also, you will notice that if we are going to use those issues to say this is why we must remove the president, then you must be able to also say, after the removal of Pravin and the introduction of Malusi, we also saw the rand gaining strength. We also saw business confidence. So that is why I'm saying you can't reduce it to just one issue. It's a variety of complex economic issues that impact on what we see today. Yes, the situation is not well. We know about issues of unemployment, and the ANC is putting plans to resolve those particular issues.
But if we look at specifically around President Jacob Zuma, we know that the ANC, the top six, did not support him in his decision to reshuffle cabinet recently.
We dealt with those issues. A statement was issued formally through the Secretary General showing support for President Zuma through an NWC, through the NEC. If the problem is that we are designing a fallacy that says the problems of this country will be dealt with on Thursday, on Thursday morning when Zuma is no longer the president, can we say that is true? That when we wake up and say Zuma is no longer president, therefore all these things will immediately go away?
Mr. Nzuza, I think Mr. Vavi wants to add something.
On this one, that you can't blame all of this crisis on one person, you are absolutely spot on, my comrade. And I agree with you, and SAFTU agrees. You cannot make a mistake that all of the crises in South Africa, a crisis that have gone far too deep and wide, must be blamed on one person. There's a collective here. It is a collective that decided to stick on with neoliberal programs. It is a collective that decided to embark on an austerity programs that resulted in SD crisis. It's a collective that looked on the other side when the Guptas were landing at water growth. It is the collective that agreed that they must take a collective responsibility when the Constitutional Court issued a damning report or findings that the president have breached his own oath of office. It is the collective that have looked on the other side when the state-owned enterprises were being pillaged and leading to near collapse of many of them. Petro SA, SAA, SABC, you name them all, ESCOM included. It is the collective that all of them agreed that it must be okay to offer Ngasana 17.3 million golden handshake.
So are you saying the ANC should all go?
In my view, the whole of the cabinet and the whole of the National Executive Committee do not deserve their right to hold on the positions they hold today. They have betrayed the historic mission of our people, which is revolving around one slogan, a better life for all. They have turned that upside down to make it a better life for some, in particular President Zuma's family and cronies surrounding him. That's their collective sin that they must take collective responsibility for.
Added to that is to have a president who is a manipulative liar. You will recall that when he removed Pravin, he said there was an intelligence report. Then the Minister of Safety and Security said there's no such a report. Secondly, when Thuli Madonsela wanted to interview him, he came to Parliament and said he has not been given an opportunity and misled Parliament. Then Thuli played the tape 4 hours. You can't have a president like that. Please.
Yeah.
Let us restore the dignity of union building and this country.
The main issue that I'm happy that Vavu here agrees with is that the overall ploy here is to remove the ANC out of power. It is not a plot that has been created today, and we all confirm, because now we're at the turning points and the signs are starting to come out. The issues about, say, remove the ANC. You must remember that some of these people who are saying remove the ANC today, it's not because, you know, they hold a better, you know, kind of argument. It's about them coming into power. Let me tell you why. They did not support the ANC to run this country. They stood in opposition with the president and said, I am better placed to lead this country. What will change their views today, and we think today they will wake up and say, well, we are better placed to actually run this country?
Okay, let's turn it around. What great thing has President Jacob Zuma done not to deserve to step down?
Well, let me start here. You look at the term of office of the president. Years ago, people used to suffer in this country because they did not have antiretrovirus. Today they do. We survived one of the worst recessions that had been created there. For those who are not affected, well, it doesn't matter. You will hear them behaving in the manner that they are. But it matters to us that the country has moved and it is better. Yes, there are those challenges, and those challenges we are dealing with them.
But this is a president that the Constitutional Court has found that he failed to uphold the Constitution, which is about his oath in office. We are at a current moment where there are more people receiving grants than those that are actually employed. Surely, as an ANC government and removing the president, as a party, you have failed to deliver on your mandate for a better life for all.
We have not failed to deliver on our mandate. We remain committed, still have years in office to correct those particular issues. There are plans that the ANC has put in place. It's a pity that we waste a lot of time discussing about who should be leading the country rather than focusing on what mechanisms are we going to put in place together. Because that is also the role of the opposition. The opposition is also supposed to be assisting in how we manage this country. But all it is for them that it's about waking up tomorrow, challenging who must lead the country, wake up another day, challenge who must lead the country. The only time they will be happy is when they lead the country themselves.
We do help the government of South Africa. But where we are not going to sing on the same hymn book is when your leaders are brazenly looting the resources of this country. On that score, we have to apply the principles of our Constitution, which promote checks and balances. We have a right to say, Mr. President, we think you are not taking us in a leading us in a right direction. Let me come back to this issue of regime change. In the exercise we are involved as opposition party members, we are not calling for a regime change. We want ANC to finish its term until 2019, but we focused on President Zuma, and we are going to explain even tomorrow and put reasons why we feel that he in particular should go.
But the opposition itself is very divided. I mean, the DA has said that if this motion actually does succeed, then we should be moving towards an early election, which is very different from what you are saying, Mr. Holomisa.
Now, what the DA should have analyzed first, the IEC is not ready for election. They are looking for 300 million now to upgrade or write addresses or put correct addresses in their voters' roll. Secondly, there is no way that the government, because the IEC is not independent, would have given them the money for them to get out. They are not ready. They are still fighting amongst themselves. So that's why we say, all right, it's only 18 months left, maybe, or even less than that. Let's see the ANC in 2019.
You know, the problem is that the general is only seeing the tree. He's not seeing the forest. He's not seeing the entire strategy that is there. As a result, you then focus on that. If I may ask, why prefer Section 102 over Section 89 of the Constitution to remove the president?
Well, we know that in September, around the 15th, the EFF have filed papers. We move step by step. So if tomorrow we remove it, there will be no need for that Section 89 you are referring to. You will have to, we will say to you, bring another person to be a president. This one is contaminated. He has to go this way.
Let me put it to you that if the focus is on removing the president and the president alone, because he has failed, such provisions are made in Section 89, which provides for the removal only of the president.
So you feel...
The plan is that you file for Section 102, the president leaves together with the cabinet.
Yes.
Immediately after that, what happens? The speaker must act, and then the DA, which is the masterminds that even the UDM is following, have planned for further than that, to say that we must find a way of collapsing such that Parliament does not elect a president within 30 days. And where does that land us? It lands us by saying we must go back to general elections.
But you've been here before. I mean, you had President Thabo Mbeki, if you recall,
They didn't.
and he stepped down, and you were able to find a caretaker president. Why do you now see that there's a need to use a different method to remove President Jacob Zuma?
What different method?
What I'm saying is that as the ANC, you could easily gather again and find another leader within the party to then take over from President Jacob Zuma.
The issue is not about President Zuma. I will put it to you very clear. It is not about President Zuma. The issue is about collapsing the ANC. That's what opposition parties want to do. We can't be commandeered by opposition parties to tell us that we must remove our own president. When President Mbeki was removed, we had issues. The National Executive Committee sat, discussed the issue, resolved on it, and it was implemented. Today we are being told by the opposition, which has never wanted the ANC to say that remove your own president.
Sorry.
Charisha, before I let you in here, sure. I mean, the difference then was that President Thabo Mbeki at the time had not even violated the Constitution. At the time, the economy was growing at an even faster rate. And the question people are battling with is, why has it been so difficult for the ANC to hold the president accountable for some of his very disastrous decisions that have led us to be where we are today?
The other issue that we must deal with...
Can we answer that one?
No. I am answering your question. The other issue that we must deal with here, that we dealt with, is that you are reducing all these problems. Every time the issue rises, you reduce all these problems. It says whatever problems we have in the country, they are because of this man, and this man must go. That is wrong. All these problems are not as a result of President Zuma. That's one thing that we must clearly stipulate. If the NEC, which is the highest decision-making body of the African National Congress, takes a decision, it will take that decision, and then the president will then be requested to either resign or deal with the issue in any way it sees befitting. But what we have here are rising calls from opposition parties that we must remove the president.
Even calls from within, Jerusha.
Sorry, this campaign is no longer in the hands of the opposition parties only. Don't make a mistake. The civil society, the members of the ANC, the veterans of the ANC, the some cabinet members of the ANC are saying, please, pack your bags and go. It's not opposition only. It's a national campaign. If you don't read the signals, you go, oh, I can't help you.
But then,
General Holomisa, you've been...
But then, can I just make one point? I was in the civil society march in Jabulo today, and one of the speakers eloquently described the problem. And he says, most of us here are voters of the ANC. And proudly declared that we are voters of the ANC, but sorry, we can't take this. And from my own personal point of view, you know this. I'm a voter campaigner of the ANC from time immemorial. I changed my mind in 2014 when I felt that this was enough. And I made it very clear that I cannot vote for this. And I can go in some great detail what I cannot vote for. And in fact, if you don't understand the extent of the crisis, look at the person who's next to you, was the General Secretary of COSATU, is now the General Secretary of SAFTO. Look at the fact that there is an EFF that didn't exist about 4 or 5 years ago. Look at the fact that 20 million South Africans would not go and vote in the last local government elections. The majority of the citizens of this country have resigned from active participation because they've lost hope. Not because of many problems. We know what is the problem here. And the main problem is that they feel betrayed, that their dream have been deferred, and that the mission that they understood to be the historic mission of the ANC has been abandoned, which includes the people shall govern, which include the wealth of the country shall be shared, the land shall be shared amongst those who work it. And now here's a critical point. It is actually not true that the ANC will lose power if the majority vote against President Zuma tomorrow. Doesn't work like that. No. The ANC will still retain its 63% majority and will be in a position to determine alone, even if all of these opposition parties can club together. But the ANC have a majority that will allow it to decide on its own, without any consultation, who must succeed President Jacob Zuma. This hysteria about this is the regime change agenda is not true. It is all about a typical Bell-Pottinger type of a strategy
But Mr. Vavi,
to divert attention from the real issue. There is an elephant in the room.
Mr. Vavi.
And the elephant in the room is in cahoots with some family from another country, which came here in 1993, which is destroying the legacy of the ANC. That's the elephant in the room.
Mr. Vavi, though, but within your SAFTU ranks, there seems to be no agreement. I mean, I was reading the General Secretary of NUMSA, Ivan Jim, disagreeing with you. First, he was saying that this march does not have the masses supporting it. It doesn't have a mandate from the workers. He's also saying that whether you remove President Jacob Zuma and replace him with Cyril Ramaphosa, for example, there will be no changes.
We agree. We happen to agree. And maybe there's a misunderstanding that must be sorted out internally within SAFTU. We agree that removing President Zuma tomorrow will not address the crisis we're facing, that I was speaking about, of deepening and worsening unemployment, poverty, and inequalities. It's not going to be this, but at least it is going to give us a start start to begin to talk about the crisis, the real crisis South Africa is facing. It is currently impossible. It is just not possible, not feasible, to begin to talk about what type of an economic structure we need that will address the crisis of the majority, of being sidelined, marginalized in an economy that continues to serve the interest of far too few and marginalizing the overwhelming majority. How do you begin to have that discussion when you read every day what is happening in ESCOM and what is happening in SAA and SABC? How do you begin to have a discussion when you have ANC senior leaders coming out in public to say we are being appointed in sex and wealth instead of union building? We hear of our appointment from these guys who arrived here in 1993 and that we are becoming ministers, so and so. Where do you start?
You start your own party and test the South Africans if they will
start
actually
with
support you instead of trying to remove...
You start with an elephant in the room that have allowed such conditions to happen. Once you do that, you then start a discussion. Where do we start? It's 23 years down the line of democracy that have sidelined the majority. So what do we do?
Give
what
a young
do we
man
do?
to respond.
Yes.
You know, firstly, I will differ with the picture that is painted here by Zwelinzima Mavavi on the conditions of how he left the organization, what happened. Will actually differ very much. But here, we are dealing with a situation which is becoming evident through conversations that we are having here. And I'm happy that it's coming up. We are dealing with a situation where the driver of this agenda is not in agreement with the passengers. The passengers actually have a different destination than where the driver is taking them. And by the time they get at that point, all these unfounded statements that are being made will be seen not to be true. Here, we are not talking about just regime change. We are talking about collapsing government. And that is why I said to the general there, if you are saying you have a problem with President Zuma as a president, and then you say you don't have any other problem, Mr. Vavi says, on the other hand, no, it's fine, let them all go, they are all the source of the problem. Then on the other hand, he says, no, they will still be allowed to bring in their other preferred candidate. You don't know now which one is which, because they don't understand the destination that is being set through this agenda.
But Mr. Nzuze, you have addressed some of the concerns raised about the president perhaps not being responsible for all the economic problems in the country, but let's talk about the issue that's come up time and again, and that's the issue of state capture, those incriminating emails, the president's relationship with a family that has pillaged this country. What is your response to that?
And we are very happy that the president himself, you will have heard the SG, said we must finalize this issue because it is doing damage to the organization. The sooner it is finalized, the better, so that we can deal with whomsoever is at the center of this debate. But one of the things that you must know is that in South Africa, we have a criminal justice system that deals with criminals. A person is called to someone, one person wakes up in the morning, goes and opens a case, you are caught. But we want to undermine those processes. When they are undermined against you, do you think it will still be fair? We must all respect the law of the country. We must follow the laws that we have set for ourselves.
General Holomisa,
what I don't understand from the leadership of the ANC is when they are allowed to be tossed around by President Zuma. President Zuma says there must be an inquiry on this state capture. Cyril Ramaphosa is also singing the same song. But President Zuma doesn't want to withdraw his challenge to court, where he is challenging the findings of the public protector. If he is honest, he should withdraw that and then comply with the public protector. Or alternative.
See, that is hypocrisy right there.
That is
hypocrisy of the highest order.
Let him finish.
I'm still on the floor.
Yeah, let him finish.
Young man, I'm still on the floor. Relax. President Zuma must withdraw that And then the government published the terms of reference and appointed the judiciary. But now he's holding the whole process.
Hypocrisy in the sense that the Reserve Bank says we have issues with the findings of the public protector. They go to court because they are saying this is unconstitutional. Findings of the public protector, they also clash with the Constitution. But because it is the persona of Jacob Zuma, don't take them to court. How must we treat people? Should we treat them equally? Or should we say these ones are superhumans and therefore they can't be treated
But
the
President Jacob Zuma has powers. He can go to the SIU and say that I want a full-on investigation on these allegations while I sort out whether the public protector can choose anybody else to be the judge of the Judicial Commission. We haven't seen him do that till now.
Which is why he said we must finalize the issue of appointing that judicial
2022.
You see, all of us seem to be wanting to live in a different planet than the South Africa's reality. The reality today is that there is no state, there's hardly any state left. It has been hollowed. It has been domesticated. In particular, the state institutions that deals with issues of security. It started with the Hawks. I was one of those who naively and stupidly supported it. The destruction of the scorpions and replaced with Hawks. Even with a Hawks that doesn't have the same track record as the Scorpions did, was targeted. And that's why a celebrated MK commander from this province, Ahmed Dramat, was thrown out and given a 3.4 million rands to walk. So the Hawks were gone, and we found ourselves with the former apartheid police from the Transkei called Ntlemeza, thanks to the court that is now history. Secondly, there is no NPA to speak about. 17.34 million was given to a professional prosecutor in the form of what was his name? Ngasana. And for no reason, and because we are in possession of the agreement, where this government signed in an agreement with Ngasana that actually you are one of the best prosecutors, but sorry, you have to go here 17.3 million. And 34 million rands have been spent to get rid of the generals in the SAPS, the professionals ones, so that you can have all of the clowns that are now there. All of it a very systematic project to hollow out the state and to domesticate it and to make it impossible for citizens to go to the police station and demand justice. One of our unions, the NTM, has been toying in the Hillbrow police station every Friday, demanding that the police act on the evidence they had produced. That at least led to the publication of the public protector's report on BRASA. The BRASA board, which have been deliberately collapsed by the government, had to go to court to ask the Hawks to do their work when they had an overwhelming evidence put in front of the Hawks to act against corruption. There will be no such a thing. The state is gone. What exists is a shadow state that have been taken over by criminals, by the crooks that are eating our carcass.
As you come in there, Njawul, I can see you're itching to answer that question. And when you talk around NPA, for example, these are, President Jacob Zuma has powers to appoint all of these people to those positions. And you find that at the moment we are not seeing them doing their work. If he's interested in getting to the bottom of this, the first thing he should be saying is, why are you actually not investigating and doing your work?
Yes, there are a lot of people that have been dealt with within the state who have been doing wrong.
Let's count.
He cites some of them. He cites Kawut, who has been dealt with.
By who?
Through by Parliament. As if you don't know. By
No,
Parliament,
I
they've
know.
been dealt with by Parliament.
No, it took-
You know that it was members of the ANC
Yeah.
who were raising issues there, and they spoke up against that. So you can't come here and pretend that
No,
now
no.
Action
has
was
been done.
taken after now the
Action was
SABC
taken.
needs a bailout,
No, no, no,
SAA
no.
needs a
The
bailout.
person-
But the issue is
Let's
that
just be
action was
saying, let's
taken.
make
We
this.
must not create a perception
The
here
person
that
who
we've been
stood up
looking away
against
from these things.
Claudi is facing death threats today, and I suspect the real reason why she didn't join this panel is because she knows that she's continuously putting her own life at risk.
That's untrue. There are no death threats. Makosi was... No. You must be factual here.
Okay.
There are no death threats against Makosi.
You still
the
believe
ANC Youth League, which was said to have issued death threats against Makosi, never issued those death threats against Makosi. Makosi has been offered security to make sure that she feels safe. She has not accepted that security.
Part of the decision by the Speaker, Baleka Mbete, was recognizing that there are threats against ANC MPs, and that's why this vote has to happen in secret, because she's recognizing that people's lives are actually in danger here. And she said it in a statement today.
And then you assume that threats are directed one way, because some people are being threatened that you must also vote for the ousting of the
Okay,
president.
but do you agree, though, that there are threats? It is quite important that we clarify that particular point. Or are you saying that the decisions of the Constitutional Court and the decisions of the Speaker are based on nothing?
Let me make it clear. We don't have any records, or am I aware of any death threats that have been issued. The only death threat that was said to be existent was said to be issued by the ANC Youth League against Makosi Khoza. There was never such a death threat made against Makosi Khoza. We know for a record that, yes, some MPs have been raising issues that they are being coerced into making sure that they oust President Zuma. I hope that is clear enough.
Okay.
General Holomisa, you are a long-time parliamentarian, and while we're talking about the intricacies of tomorrow, for the benefit of our viewers at home and for those of us in the room, will you speak us through the process of what will happen tomorrow when members of parliament walk into the National Assembly?
Well, I think the first thing tomorrow around 9 o'clock, the Forum of the Whips will meet and agree on what kind of rules will be applied. Fortunately, we do have a precedence. When we were electing President Zuma, we went through a secret ballot process. So I don't think they will spend a lot of time on that. Then at 2 o'clock, then the DA, which have applied for this debate, will open up, and then all the parties, ANC will be given a chance to say why Zuma must not go. Holomisa will stand up as well and say, hey man, what up? This manipulative liar must go. See? So, and then after that, then we will be called upon to go and vote.
And should the president lose that vote, we understand that what Mr. Vavi has been calling for, the entire structure, all of cabinet, will then resign. Talk us through that process, please.
The Madam Speaker will act as the president, and then the cabinet, of course, will have to resign together with the president. And then once the new president is elected, then that president will announce his or her cabinet. Then we continue.
What happens, Mr. Nzuza, if President Jacob Zuma has to leave and resign tomorrow?
Let me be very clear. The members of the ANC in Parliament understand very well what is at play here. And they are not going to vote to support the motion of no confidence. And as a result, when we sleep tomorrow, President Zuma will still be president of the country. Immediately after that, we will focus on dealing with issues of unemployment that is affecting the country, the issue of education that we must implement by 2018. That is the agenda. Part of the reason is to say, look, you wanted your secret ballot. There is your secret ballot. It's not going to succeed. And immediately after that, we have a duty to stabilize the country and deal with the real problems that are affecting our people rather than these power tussles.
Mr. Nzuza, we know that you absolutely do not believe that the president will be out of work tomorrow. But let's say in a hypothetical world this happens, would you back Cyril Ramaphosa as a caretaker president?
Well, we have been taught not to take decisions just on hypothetical issues. You take decisions on the basis of ground material conditions that prevail on the ground. And that is how you take decisions. That is how we are trained to think.
I guess what I'm trying to ask you, though, is your...
We don't listen.
What I'm trying to ask you then, let's be more direct about it, is your feelings towards a potential Cyril Ramaphosa presidency.
Well, the ANC has a decision. And you must always remember, we're not just dealing with an organization that popped out yesterday. You are dealing with an organization that has a rich history, that has been able to deal with one of the one difficult problems. It's not for the first time we are faced with this situation. We know very well that the president of the ANC remains the president of the country. That is how the millions of people of South Africa voted. The person that they knew they are voting for in the whole contingent list of the ANC was President Zuma, because they knew that this man will be president.
But you tell
so
us every day.
Tomorrow, we are very clear that we'll sleep, Zuma will be president, we'll wake up, we'll deal with the problems that Vavi is raising and resolve those problems.
So you're now saying that South Africans must be fully aware that they vote for individuals and not for parties. But before you answer that question, before you answer,
I'm not going to let that one go. I'm not going to let that one go. I'm not going to let that one go. People, when they vote for the ANC. And when they vote for the ANC, they might not be fully aware who's going to be allocated as Minister of Finance and all those things. They vote for the ANC. And when they vote for the ANC, they know very well that the president of the ANC is going to be the president of the Republic. So we must make that very clear so that we don't leave it hanging.
The second part of my question was that we saw what happened in 2016. And there is a growing number, if the protests are anything to go by, what we're hearing on the streets, people are losing confidence in the ANC, and there's a real danger of the party losing at least its commanding majority in 2019. Are you not concerned that by continuing to protect President Jacob Zuma and not hold him accountable, in fact, might lead to the defeat of the ANC in 2019?
Let me make one thing clear. We are aware of the problems that are facing us as the organization, and we are aware that less people will have voted for the ANC now than previously. And admitting those problems takes us closer to the solution. But we must then not be commandeered by the opposition to tell us what is the source of our problems. We know the source of our problems more than the opposition do. So we must be very clear on that one.
We're going to have to open up the floor to questions. Mr. Vavi, we'll let you take this, and then we'll go to the floor.
In my view, the MPs, in particular from the ANC, have perhaps a very rare opportunity, a rare chance to make what went wrong right tomorrow, and only tomorrow. And 2017 is December, too late. A statement must be issued tomorrow. A statement that will speak to the people I spoke about, the 20 million that didn't participate in the voting processes in 2016. A statement must be made to the people in Johannesburg, where the majority party now is the DA, in Tshwane, Pretoria, in Ekurhuleni, in Port Elizabeth, but more importantly, here in the Western Cape, where the ANC have lost and have no hope of returning to power, at least for few generations to come. A statement that will say, we are prepared to accept that we made a mistake in electing a compromised person to be the president. We are aware that the country have taken so much pain as a result of this. We are aware of the destruction that the decisions that this president have taken have caused in the economy rather. We are aware that South Africa is now beginning to march towards a failed state. is standing right at the doorstep of a predatory state, a
Good
kleptocratic
advice, young
order.
man. Take it.
And we want to send a signal that the ANC does not condone this, even though it has supported it over and over again. But tomorrow, it has a chance to say this point and no further. If the ANC will bureaucratically close the ranks and say to all of the thousands of people who are coming from the ANC who are marching today, sorry, we don't hear you. We are continuing his business as usual. We love our president. We acknowledge the problem, but we're doing nothing about them. Then,
by the way, this is the gentleman who campaigned for JZ.
On that note, we're going to open it up to questions now. So if you have a question, if you would just raise your hand,
in my
and we'll
view,
bring a
that will
microphone
be
to you.
simply an unforgivable sin in 2019.
Okay, we have a question right there at the back, on to our left.
Hi, my name is Asanda Ngwasheng. I have a question for the ANC representative. My question is, which one is it? When you are questioned on Jacob Zuma and Jacob Zuma's failings, you say it's not about one man. And when you are questioned about the collective, you go back to Zuma being the president and being in charge of the country. Which one is it? And if the ANC recognizes and acknowledges the issues that are happening, why is collective action not happening? And why is the collective not falling on the sword? And then the last thing is, I actually feel quite sad. I'm even sadder than when I came here, because you just put the tombstone on the ANC. You are insisting that no matter what happens, no matter what South Africans think, the ANC is going to be in power in perpetuity. What needs to happen in South Africa for the ANC to realize that the time for joking around is over? We've got junk status, we've got a recession, we've got, you know, women being killed every day, and so many problems that I could count. But it seems like you're living in a different planet to the South Africa that we live in.
Okay, that's the first question. You've got it, Mr. Njabulo. I'm looking for the second person with the mic. Yes.
No, thank you very much. Greetings to the panel and people that are here. I think also when we have forums of this nature, particularly with the panelists that we choose and the topics that we have, it's also important that we also interrogate the people who are sitting there. Zwelinzima Mavavi was expelled from COSATU. One of the charges was that he appointed a girlfriend in an airport somewhere illegally, so there were also allegations that he stole a lot of money from COSATU, which got him expelled, but he's sitting there. The second issue is that General Holomisa himself was expelled from the ANC when it was led by Nelson Mandela. Now you can imagine what type of a person gets expelled from the ANC of Nelson Mandela. But coming to my question, you know, there's also an allegation here that civil society is marching against the president and so on. Now, let us also interrogate, who is this civil society? Today there was a march where people of Kailicha in that particular march, where people of Guguletu in that particular march, because also you can't have a group of people who sit in air-conditioned rooms like this ones and call each other civil society. Masses of our people, every day, there's by-elections. Every day, the ANC continues to win those particular by-elections, with Zuma still being the president. But as a last point that I want to raise, tomorrow, members of the ANC in parliament, who, by the way, are 249, members of the DA are 89. There is no way in a normal world where 89 people can command 249, which were democratically elected. We, as voters of the ANC, have sent those particular people to vote in a manner that advances the agenda of the ANC. But I just want to say that, yes, there has been mistakes, but in the N2 here, as you go towards the airport, there's a big housing project, the N2 housing project, which is one of the legacies of this particular government. There's a national health insurance scheme, which was launched by this particular government. There's a big rural development project, particularly in the Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal, which was launched by this particular government. There's a lot of big aspects. Free education, by the way, we're moving towards it. So I was trying to just balance this issue so that we don't just have something that looks like a bashing contest for the ANC. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we take a third question before they answer? There's a lady in the middle with the red cap.
Thank you. My name is Nomvume Khalakhala. You know, from where I'm seated, I feel so sad that there are still young people defending what is wrong. And I'm like, there's only one person who survived that. That is Julius Malema, who rose out of the blue when he was explained. And I'm just trying to say, what kind of young people that we want to see, who are going to be our leaders, defending something that is seen by young people. Even anyone, even blind people can see that. What pains me is that they will continue doing these things because they have a father who comes from the same root. Look what happened now. No one is saying anything about girls who were assaulted by a member of parliament who occupied a senior position in parliament. And I was still joking about all these things about Zuma because a person is counting N2 Gateway, but what about the mess that is happening now? If it was somebody else, I'm telling you, the green blouses were going to be all over this show. And people are counting one thing out of all the things that Zuma have done. What kind of South Africa you young men want to see tomorrow under this leadership of people? I know, that is why we were quiet. That we're not, tomorrow they are not going to vote because one female comrade said, all of us have got smolanyana skeletons.
Okay.
So meaning therefore, still, that counts, they have all of them, as you have said that, all of them are implicated. But at the end of the day, if my son is troublesome outside, the person that must account is me.
Thank you
so
very,
we're
very
accounting,
much.
the president must account Zuma. Thank you.
Mr. Nzuza, would you take the
Look,
first question,
let me start here. We must not create a perception that the ANC has done nothing and leave it there. We must be able to understand that millions of young people who could not access higher education today access higher education and their lives are better. You must be able to say millions of people live in better conditions than they did before the ANC was in power. You must be able to say we have literally progressed. We have electrified houses where no one thought there must be electricity. We have produced business people who operate in this particular country who had no idea even the extent of the economy that we have. And for that, the ANC has done very well. And therefore, to come here and create a box, because let me tell you that what is happening here. Here we are creating a box that says, you ANC, fire your president and people will have confidence in you. As if when you've done that, all of the generals sitting here today and the DA and the EFF will immediately say, we are clapping hands to the ANC. You have done the right thing. They are not. They are still going to continue to pursue to damage the image of the ANC up until such time they themselves, they are in power. Therefore, to say, no, ANC, this is what you must do. If you don't do this, you are wrong. As if this is not a politically contested terrain. People must not come here and claim to be custodians of high morals.
Maybe to start off with us, the first question that we heard was that, do you think in your eyes there is nothing wrong that President Jacob Zuma has done? Because I think that was the question that she was asking. And if not, does the collective then take responsibility and why don't they follow them?
People who are criminals and who have done wrong are sentenced by courts to a certain number of years. And that is why, as a country, we run on the principle that a person is innocent till proven guilty. Those decisions were not taken by drunk people. They were taken by sober people to protect individuals against unwarranted attacks. Until such time we say a person is guilty till proven innocent, then we are talking
Bringing the
a different
organization
issue.
into disrepute?
Well, when you bring the organization into disrepute, you are called before a disciplinary hearing. And that is another problem. People now are warranted to issue statements that are not validated and they are perceived as the truth just because it has been said. It's not true.
No, but what I'm asking is that why has the ANC not been able to actually ensure that President Jacob Zuma faces a DC for bringing the organization into disrepute? Why has the ANC not been able, for example, with the leaked Gupta emails? We have seen some of the information that has come through, money that was meant for poor people in the farm in the Free State, taken and used for the Gupta family's wedding, the Gupta lending at Waterkloof.
Let me start here. I'm not a proxy of the Guptas. I don't speak for the Guptas. I don't operate with the Guptas. What I know is ANC and President Zuma has not been called to a disciplinary on any matter. We have discussed issues and we see them for what they are. Up until a person is guilty, then you deal with the person. And the other issue is that we seem to be, and I'm going to go back to this issue, quite consistently. We are reducing what must happen tomorrow as if it's just about President Jacob Zuma.
Mr. Vavi, the second question related to, obviously, yourself, your role that you played in COSATU. Is this about a personal battle, and who are the people that you are claiming to be representing on the streets?
Let me say that every time people run out of a political argument, they go personal, with the hope that they can win some points. And they do this all the time, by the way. The first sign of political immaturity, it is that personal attack. It's not surprising because when people are shallow, they resort to mudslinging. First point, it is just factually not correct. In fact, it's libelous to suggest that I employed a girlfriend. It was part and parcel of an agenda of COSATU supporting this president, who went out to tell the public that is so. Yes, I made a mistake, which I have apologized for, of having an affair later with a staff member employed by the entire collective. But even if we were to come to that type of a mistake, I will not compete in that game with the person that you are defending. There will be no competition, none whatsoever. Secondly, the very same agenda put up statements that Zwelinzima Vavi stole millions in the sale of the COSATU house, in the upgrading money for the building. He would have taken something, he employed his children, left, right, and center. Headlines for weeks as part of the strategy to force me and NUMSA out of the federation. Only these few weeks it emerged that the Guptas were right there. The very same agenda that we're saying must end in South Africa, it was the agenda to loot from workers, and they did, millions, because they have their own operative inside Kopano Gimatla, captured as well. I went through, Brur, 2 full forensic audits by COSATU factions, running parallel with one another. One on the building, one on my personal life, my iPads, laptops, phones, statements of 3 years bank statements. They find 0. I wonder here in this house if you can be subjected to the same level of scrutiny, whether you will come clean. Many of the people who say Vavi, Vavi, no evidence. Only now are they walking around with their eggs, with their faces full of eggs. No evidence of any of the things that you are talking about, my leader. But this is South Africa. When they run out of political arguments, they throw mud.
I'm afraid that that's all we have time for today, but thank you so much for joining us. And
But what about him having a right to respond?
You know, young man, Madiba was part of a collective. They charged me, wanted to discipline me because I mentioned the word corruption as a point of reference. It was worse when I mentioned the name of Sol Kesner. They panicked beyond comprehension because he was funding them. So I left ANC on fighting for a principle. I was betting on a wicket of anti-corruption, and I'm still doing so now. When it was not fashionable to mention corruption in the ANC then, today even the main suspect, he says, I'm fighting corruption in the case of your president. So that's the irony, but thanks for the liberty you gave me, because I could be free to go to Constitutional Court and put you back to the right direction. I hope tomorrow you will do a right thing and try and restore the dignity of this country, and also to make sure that the legacy of the O.R. Tambo and others is restored, not to peddle on a wicket where we are targets of these hyenas.
With just 1 minute left, we have one last question, and we're going to ask you to answer it in 5 words or fewer, and that is, if there is to be a new president tomorrow, if there is to be a new leader for the ANC, what should their first port of call be? We'll start with you, General.
Well, I would wish that that person can start with these emails by making sure that the law enforcement agencies is given their latitude to investigate this matter, because we need to restore the confidence to our country. And then the issues like the downgrades and so on will follow immediately. Once people see that at least if you do something wrong, there must be some consequences. The problem, that word consequence, is not in the vocabulary of the ANC.
Mr. Babu.
Our people demand hope to dream again, to believe that South Africa also can serve their interest. The marginalized, unemployed, young people, women, and Africans want to be assured that we can start again. 23 years of a marginalization of the majority. Hopefully tomorrow we can have somebody the next day who can say, South Africa, fine, first thing first, put all of the crooks in prison. Secondly, can we talk about South Africa we want, we dream about? And I hope that that's what will emerge after tomorrow.
After tomorrow, the ANC will continue with this program to make the lives of our people better. And will not be deterred. The motion of no confidence will come just like any other motion that has came before. We are not going to be commandeered by the enemy generals to force us into a corner where we must do things to collapse this country. Some of the people today are saints.
Well, it wasn't quite 5 words, but thank you very much.
It's difficult to get 5 words out of politicians.
And to our viewers at home, thank you so much for following along with us. Remember to keep sending us your thoughts and opinions. We're at News24. Tomorrow we'll be live streaming the motion of no confidence from Parliament. And of course, we've got analysts in studio all day talking about Mahlatsi, what we believe will be protests around the country.
Yeah, we started off with the protests that we're expecting with civil society and opposition parties. Our reporters will be out there on the ground, so please stay tuned. News24 will bring it all to you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for watching.
Yes, everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.